Welcome to Make Your Mark podcast, where guests share their experiences, insights, and tactics to help you accelerate your business. So building, scaling, and monetizing your business is made easier. And I will be your host, Kay Suthar. Hey guys, I have got an amazing guest for you on this episode this week. Oh my goodness, her name is Jennie Bellinger. Wait, did I say that right?
Yep, you got it.
I did. Okay, perfect. She is a certified professional coach and the host of the Badass Direct Sales Mastery podcast. She works with badass direct sales mums with ADHD to help them focus on their business growth activity so they can be home with their kiddos, right? With their little kids. An entrepreneur since 2010, she understands the desire to contribute to your family's future and be present with them in the here and now, and how difficult balancing those two priorities can be. So Jennie has learned the hard way while prioritizing and navigating and building two businesses, raising two kids, and navigating a divorce. To fulfill that need to provide and be there for her children, Jennie's also known as a direct sales dom. Luckily, as a certified professional coach, her methods are very effective and not painful. So please welcome Jennie and her beautiful cat behind her to the show.
Hi, Kay. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing today, Jennie?
I'm doing well. You're already further into the day that I am, so that just tells me it's a good day.
Absolutely. And Jennie, I have been looking forward to having you on this show for a while now because I knew it was going to be an absolute blast. It's going to be fun. And you are just full of golden nuggets, right? And so we've had several conversations before, and every time we've spoken, I've learned something, right? So you are just full of magic. So I know today our audience are going to be getting so much value and education from you around the topic of ADHD, right? And so before we kind of get into the nitty gritty, I would love for you to kind of share about your story, your background, and how you managed to build a business and get to this point in business and what that journey looked like for you.
Oh my gosh. So it started with me being a middle school science teacher.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was a middle school science teacher for a number of years, and then I got pregnant with my oldest, and I decided to take some time off, and I stepped back from the teaching profession. And when my child was about 2, I thought, okay, I'm ready to send my kid to daycare, and I'll start going and trying to find another teaching job. Yeah. Well, this was the middle of the recession. So this was 2010. So here in the States, that was like right smack dab in the worst part of the whole recession. And so schools didn't have money. And so that year I went on 18 interviews and heard 18 no's. And it wasn't just no. The hard part was they all were like, we really want to hire you. We can't afford you because you have experience and you're such a talented teacher. And so we have to go with the brand new college grad.
Oh, wow.
So after the 18th no, I'm very persistent in case you couldn't tell.
Yes.
I finally said, okay, universe, fine. If I'm not supposed to be teaching, what am I supposed to be doing instead?
Right.
And 2 days later, an invitation to a direct sales event showed up in my mailbox.
Ooh.
So I went to that, not connecting the fact that I had, in exasperation, thrown my arms up at the universe and said, now what? Went to that event and all the signs were there. And I walked out of that event with a business, a direct sales business.
Wow.
And I started doing the direct sales thing. I started selling like crazy. My first 4 months, I didn't recruit anybody to my team because I didn't know what I was doing.
Wait, hold on a second.
Yeah.
Did you have sales experience prior to going to this event?
Nope.
So how did that decision come about? Like, what was the thought process?
For me, it was this perfect storm of stuff going on in my life. I had just been told no 18 times. So I was like, okay, the universe is telling me I'm really not supposed to be teaching. And also as I was sitting there, I at this event, and they're talking about, hey, this is a company that's, it was a company that had been around since 1955.
Oh,
So
wow.
it was a company that had a long history.
Yeah.
But they were new to my city.
Mm,
So it was this combination of the comfort of a longtime company,
yeah.
but the newness of, being new to the city. So I had this like almost ground floor opportunity without having to worry about, is the company going to make it, right?
Right. Mhm.
And so, and because it was the middle of the recession, it was $5 to start my business that year.
No way.
Yeah, $5. Like literally pull a $5 bill out of your purse and hand
Wow.
it to them, and you had a business. Um and I just remember asking, I said, "Okay, so I do this. What happens if, right?" Cuz
Mm,
I wanted to know. And they said, if you do, if you go do 5 parties, because this was a party plan setup thing. Um, ooh, gosh, Zoom, sorry. It was a party plan setup. And so they said, go do 5 parties. If at the end of 5 parties, if you don't love what you're doing, if you're not making money, if you're not whatever, you get to keep the product that I got in my starter kit. I got to keep any cash that I made, any commissions that I made,
right.
and I could walk away. That
Wow.
was it. And I was like, okay, so you're telling me I'm going to get $1,000 worth of, in this case, the company was a jewelry company. So I was like, you're telling me I'm
Okay.
going to get $1,000 worth of jewelry,
Wow.
any of the money that I make at 5 parties, and I walk away scot free if I don't love it. And they're like, yep. Well, surprise, surprise. Jennie, the
Yeah.
party girl, liked partying and making money. So
Right. Oh my
so
goodness.
I loved it. And within 90 days I was
Mhm.
the second top salesperson in my entire organization, only below my sponsor.
Mhm.
And I was off to the races. Like I said, I didn't recruit anyone to my team in the first 4 months because I didn't know what I was doing. But then once I figured it out, again, off to the races. Once I figure something out, it's like, oh, okay. And that's the ADHD, right? We're all or nothing. Like until, we don't know how to do it until we do. And then when we do, it's
Right.
like pedal to the metal,
Yes.
all in, kind of thing. And I learned so many things in the first
Mhm.
couple of years of business, and that really served me when I was able to when I switched over from the direct sales business to the coaching business, because I was able to go, okay, last time I did this, I'm not going to do that this time. I had a much shorter learning curve because,
Yes.
second business, so now I can, do these other things faster.
Absolutely.
And I had built a network of people around me that when I announced that I was becoming a coach, they all went, "Oh, that makes perfect sense. Yeah.
There
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
go.
That's right."
So, all right. So before we get any further, I just want to clarify for our listeners today that you yourself have been diagnosed with ADHD.
Mhm.
Is that
Yeah,
correct?
I first found out about ADHD, although back then it was called ADD, attention deficit disorder.
Okay.
When my brother was diagnosed, he was going into 5th grade and I was going into 9th grade. And I remember my parents sitting us down and telling us about this. And my dad had gone and got a photocopy of the diagnosis sheet.
Right.
And I'm looking at the sheet going, everything on here is me except for the hyperactivity. Like,
Oh.
this is me. Like, and what they didn't know, because this was the early 90s, what they didn't
Mhm.
know back then was that girls present differently for ADHD than boys do.
Oh.
Boys show up as physically hyperactive, like literally can't sit down, bouncing around the room. They're doing
Mhm.
1700 like physical things.
Right.
Girls' ADHD, their hyperactivity is in their head. It's
Ah.
in their brain. they're having 1,700 thoughts a minute. I mean, not
Oh,
actually, I'm
wow.
exaggerating a bit there,
Yeah.
but but the hyperactivity is in the brain, and it can also show up in chattiness. But
Ah.
that's about it. That's the major physical difference between ADHD and boys and girls.
You know what?
And
I
so,
myself had no idea about those two differences. So I've totally learned something myself today as well,
good.
right? Like I had no idea, right? Because I thought it didn't matter if you're a boy or a girl, like it's exactly the same things. I think
Oh
same things
no.
show up. So that is really interesting to hear. So how did that affect or speed up or help you in your business?
Oh, well, the ADHD is a superpower.
Yes.
And what I have learned over the years is any superpower is also your kryptonite.
Oh, wait, why do you say that?
Because all of the things that are beneficial about ADHD, when you dial it up too high, can become too much, can become the kryptonite, can become your weakness, right? So, I have this wonderful ability because I am very lucky in that the way that I um experience my ADHD or my neurodivergence, as some people call it. I like to call it neurospicy because that's just so much more fun. Um, the way I experience mine is I don't have anxiety and depression. And I explain to people, I'm like, well, when you have ADHD, it's really easy to go, ooh, I don't like that feeling. I'm gonna go over here and feel something different. Like I
Right.
use my ADHD to go, oh, if I'm having a negative experience, if I'm feeling anxious,
Mm.
if I'm feeling like moving towards depression, because here's the thing, people with ADHD, people with neurodivergence, it's not unusual for us to be prone to addiction and of any kind, including being addicted to anxiety, being addicted to
Oh.
depression, because it's something we can feel very, very deeply. And so for me, I'm like, yeah, no, I can't go down that rabbit hole. I
Mm.
can't do it. Like, no, because I know that I would be that person who would be super anxious or super depressed. I'm like, nope, we're just going to use my ADHD to focus on something different.
Interesting. So, is it easy for you to switch and say, right, I don't want to feel this emotion. I'm going to switch to this emotion? Or was that something that you had to train yourself to do?
I think it was something that I did naturally because
Mm.
I don't like feeling those things.
Yeah.
And luckily, because of the easy dopamine hit that ADHD can give us for choosing to do something else, switching and going, okay, I'm going to go over here and do this instead. So deciding to go and get the dopamine hits of working on my business or doing something fun with my kids or, something else, right?
Mm.
I choose that. Not to say that I don't have feelings of anxiety from time to time, not to say that I don't have feelings of sadness or depression from time to time, but I use my ADHD, my superpower, to focus on something different and go down a different rabbit hole. Because I can't go down that. I've got
Mm.
too many people depending on me, including
Right.
myself. So,
Right. Right. Now, I totally understand that. And so you work with a lot of people that have ADHD. You work with mums. Tell us a little bit about that. Like, obviously, with your experience for yourself, this is how this business came about. You knew that other people needed help as well,
yeah.
right? And so, what does that look like? How do you serve your clients in that way?
Well, for the ones with ADHD, I serve to the accountability and the reminder oftentimes
Mm.
because of that, you know, easy ability to switch focus.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Um
by the way, I gotta say, I'm so jealous because of that, right? Because because it's not as easy for most of us to just switch,
oh yeah. Oh,
right?
let me tell you, the people in your life who are ADHD, neurodivergent, neurospicy, we can pivot on a dime. I mean, just boop, okay, time to move to another thing. And so what I do for my clients is I'm providing that accountability and that reminder that, oh, hey, remember how you said you wanted to do this thing?
Right.
Because we can get off the rails very quickly. I like to think of our brains, sometimes as those, we are either like a single track or the Grand Central Station with all of the tracks everywhere.
Right.
And our brain is the train that's either on the single track or it is switching, like all over the place.
So, okay. So on the so you've got the side where you can kind of switch if you're not feeling that particular emotion, right? But then
Yeah.
on the other hand, like you were saying, you can go in so many different directions at the same time. So how do you keep it going in the same momentum to make sure that you are on the right place, you are doing the right things, and you don't just keep switching up to one thing to another? How do you, I guess, control? I don't know if that's the right word.
Manage it. Manage is
yeah.
probably the best thing. For me, the number one thing is awareness. I'm aware of it. Like I can have, like I literally this morning while I was getting ready, I had a moment where I was like, oh, I'm super ADD today. Like in the process of getting dressed, was getting distracted. Like, yeah, like, oh, I need to go do this thing. No, you need to put clothes on, Jennie. You have to get on Zoom with people today. You need to put clothes on. And so it's the awareness, and that allows me to go, okay, boom, get back. What's the thing, right? What's the thing in front of me that needs to be done right now? And so that's one thing that has been a major help for me, even just since I officially got diagnosed when I was 23 years old. So I've known that I've had it for over 20. Oh my gosh. I've known I've had it for like 30 years, but I didn't get diagnosed until about 20 something years ago. And I don't use medication. I tried medication 20 something years ago. I've considered recently trying some of the newer medications to see if they help, but I'm not there yet. So the other thing that I do, like in my business to help me with all of this, because in business, we also have this tendency to be like, ooh, squirrel, I'm going to do this. Yes. I'm going to go do this thing, and I'm going to go do this thing. And what I've learned is so the second thing I do is I have coaches.
Yeah.
And I have one specific coach where I have tasked her with, Jennie, that's a squirrel. Get back on track. Like she's like, that's pretty much her whole job is to go, Jennie, that's a squirrel. Get back on track. Like, and I'm only allowed to shift if the focus stays on that thing
right
for a long time.
Okay.
Right. Where if I'm like, yeah, no, this is really where I'm supposed to be going. So for example, when I first started with her, so this coach is Virginia Mooskies, who you met on the Marketers Cruise when you met me. When I started with her 5 years ago in my business, I was like, okay, I'm going to be a coach for direct salespeople. She's like, great. And then I switched and it was like salespeople. And she was like, okay, great, question mark. And it wasn't as effective. And she's like, go back to the direct sales, go back to the direct sales thing. Okay. And she just keeps bringing me back, bringing me back, because that's my passion. And she's just like, quit trying to get all the people and get the people that you could serve the best. And so recently I added the direct sales people with ADHD because I started seeing a pattern. One of the benefits of ADHD is because our brains move so fast, we see patterns before other people do. Oh
my God, you guys have got so much more advantages.
Right? Thank you. Because let me tell you, that's not what we hear all the time. I mean, hello, ADHD, attention deficit disorder.
Yeah.
right?
The thing is,
Which is why we're switching the terminology. We in the world of ADHD are going towards neurodivergent. It just
ah,
means different. We just have a different brain. It works
yeah.
differently. And yes, ADHD, the way that our neurodivergent brain evolved came about because we needed people in our tribes thousands of years ago,
Mm,
you know, our clans of people who were nomadic. We needed the people who every time a twig snapped, we were looking behind us because is that a saber-toothed tiger behind us? We need to see if we're being stalked right now, right?
right.
Whereas the neurotypical brain can be like, oh, that's just a twig snapping. And we go, wait a minute, what's that?
I see. I see. And so, do you kind of give that accountability and the support to your clients now? Is that how that works?
Yeah, exactly. Because
Mm,
I know how that feels. And I'm able to provide the accountability and support without judgment.
there you go. Wow.
Because
So,
let me tell you, we in the neurodivergent world are really good at judging ourselves and not so positively.
oh, so wait, but everyone does that, right?
Yeah.
We're our best like critics, right?
Oh,
Judging
yeah.
ourselves.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's just keep in mind the neurodivergent person,
Yeah.
we feel emotion so deeply that we take it further.
Uh,
And remember, we've got 1,700 thoughts a minute. So when a neurotypical is judging themselves, they're saying something negative to themselves three or four to five times in a minute. The
yeah.
neurodivergent person has now already said it seven times more than the neurotypical has. So the impact is greater. We are harder on ourselves than anyone ever could be.
Oh, wow.
And so I as the coach to my clients make sure I am a positive cheerleader. I'm not just a coach. I am my client's biggest cheerleader,
Yeah.
providing them the
Mm,
accountability and support without judgment because I get it.
yeah.
I'm able to go, "Hey, I know what that feels like." And back on track.
Oh, wow. Wow. Oh, Jenny, do you know what? I'm so interested to see what happens next because we are going to now play the Make Your Mark challenge. Okay.
Ooh.
Now, after everything that you have just told me and taught all of us, I'm like, oh, let's see how this challenge goes, right?
Okay.
So, just tell you a little bit about it. So, Make Your Mark podcast is basically around, people that are making their mark, the strategies that they're using, how are they standing out, what are they doing differently, what is their business like, how are they serving the clients, all these good things, right? And so the Make Your Mark challenge, I'm going to be giving you 30 seconds. It's going to be timed, right?
Okay.
30 seconds to name some of the best kind of brands out there, companies out there that we have known to come know and love, things that we use in business, in our homes. It could be anything, right? So name as many brands that have already made their mark in the world that we know,
Mm.
and the most brands that you can name in 30 seconds at the end of the season, which will be in 3 months. The one that has the highest name brands in 30 seconds will actually receive a prize from me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
And
you ready?
these have to be something that you and the audience have heard of.
Yes, so they're very well known to majority of the people, especially our listeners, right? So big brands that have made their mark in the world and we've all come to know and love.
Okay.
Yeah? All right.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome, awesome. So let me just get the timer ready and then we will get started. The only thing I do say, and I say this to all my clients, all my guests, is no Googling, right? Because
Nope.
someone
I don't have time. Like, and you know, my brain's already going, ooh, these.
Yes, I can tell already because all of a sudden I noticed that your speech slowed down. I was like, oh, her brain's ticking away.
Mm-hmm.
All right, perfect. So after three, 1, 2, 3.
Mary Kay, Avon, Tupperware, let's see, Nike, McDonald's, Burger King, Reebok, Adidas, Levi's, Jordache. Let's see. Oh goodness gracious. Johnson and Johnson, Procter and Gamble, Purina.
Stop. There we go. That was 30 seconds. Oh my goodness. You actually did really, really well. Really, really well. Let's take a look. I'm just going to count up the scores. You got 1, 2, 3, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13 in 30 seconds isn't too bad, to be fair. It's actually really, really good. But yeah, I did notice your brain started working a lot quicker. The minute I said you got 30 seconds to name brands, your brain was already going.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's pretty cool. But no, so what I will do, I will send an email to all the guests after the season, let everyone know what the scores were and who the winner is. And yeah, I will be sending you a gift.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, no worries. But let's get back to the episode and talk more about what you do for your clients.
Yes.
And so you were saying that basically you have an advantage and you can really help your clients because you're living that life, right?
Yeah.
And so you know what it's like. And the fact that you said that you don't judge, right? And you kind of make them comfortable and let them know it's okay. And so how did you get past, because there's a lot of negativity and people like labeling people, right? People are getting labeled all the time. And I love the fact that you're saying that the name is changing from a disorder, right, to something else that's a lot more positive.
Right.
And so as you are growing up, right, and you could see a lot of negativity and people being labeled, how did you take that on board as a young person?
As a young person, I saw it as definitely something negative. Like I'm not meant to fit in this world. I'm going to have to medicate in order to fit in. It was pretty difficult, because the world is built and structured for neurotypicals, or at least it was. That is starting to shift, thank goodness. And so that was, and I think that's part of why, those of us with neurodivergence really beat ourselves up because, what was it, Albert Einstein who said, if you ask a goldfish to climb a tree, of course it's going to look stupid. Right. I'm paraphrasing. I don't think I have that exactly right, but you know what I mean, right? Yes. Like you're asking a neurodivergent person to live in a neurotypical world. Of course, we're going to look stupid and feel stupid in some cases. And in other cases, we look bloody freaking brilliant, right? Yeah. Because I would venture that many of the billionaires that we know of right now, I would put money on the fact that they are also neurodivergent.
Yeah, I have actually heard of that. I have, right? And it's funny because I've worked with a lot of CEOs that do or have been diagnosed with ADHD, right? Mm-hmm. And you're absolutely right. It can work with them and against them. It depends on how you're managing it, if you're able to manage it, and if you're aware of it.
Oh, yeah. And because I was aware that I had this difference, even before I got officially diagnosed, I started coming up with coping strategies. It's so funny because I hear often how organized I am. They're like, oh my gosh, you're so organized. And I'm like, in my business, if you could see my house right now, you would not say such things.
Wait, hold a second there. But what about how you do some things is how you do everything? If you're super organized in your business, why would that not be the same with everything else?
Because people with neurodivergence are very good at compartmentalizing.
Oh.
They're like, I have to be organized in my business because I get paid to do X, Y, and Z. Right? I have people who are paying me to do these things, so I need to find a way that I can't drop the ball.
So you've prioritized.
Right. And then in my home life, I'm like, okay, I've had to delegate to say, look, keeping the house organized is not my strong suit. Luckily, my boyfriend is a high C on the disc profile. He's a high C. He likes processes and systems and things. Everything goes in its place. And, so he's very good at that. So I'm like, if you can help me with keeping that stuff going, that would be great, because it's not my thing. I will make food. I will make sure we are all very well fed with good, delicious food if you can help me keep the house clean, because I just can't. That's not organizing a house is not my thing. I look in a room that is crazy messy and my brain just shuts down. It gets overwhelmed. It doesn't know where to start, even though in my head, I'm going, all I have to do is just start by picking up one thing. But my brain goes, which one? Like, which one thing am I supposed to pick up? I don't know.
Oh my goodness. And so I guess with so many young people now wanting to go into entrepreneurship and wanting to build their own business and, kind of getting the feelers out as to what they want to do. Mm-hmm. What would you say to that young entrepreneur, right? If they have been diagnosed with ADHD and they're telling themselves, maybe I can do it, maybe I can't, maybe this isn't right for me, maybe I'm not suited in this role or this position, maybe I should just go and get a job. What would you say to that person?
Oh no, please, please, please stay in entrepreneurship, because the corporate world was not made for neurodivergence. No. Corporate world was made for neurotypicals. I was actually just doing some research on ADHD and entrepreneurship, and entrepreneurs are 30% more likely to be diagnosed with ADHD than someone in the neurotypical corporate world. Yeah. Because people with ADHD, neurodivergence, are much more likely to go after a dopamine hit. And it is exciting and risky and adventurous to our brains to go try this thing. We are willing to do it, and we're willing to go do, if the listener right now were to think of somebody in their life who they're like, oh my God, that person has like 7 failed businesses. I would wager money on the fact that that person is neurodivergent and they just haven't found the right business. Once they find that thing, they are going to rock it.
So wait, how do you find that thing? Because you found it very quickly, right?
Right.
If you've got 7 failed businesses, you're probably going to be at a point where you're like, this probably isn't for me. That's why it's not worked out.
And some do. Some do that, and then they end up going back into the corporate world and being really, really, really unhappy because they're in a structure that is not built for them. And others just go, okay, I've learned 7 different ways to not make money in the entrepreneurial world. So time to try the next one, right? There again, the neurodivergent brain is always seeking the next dopamine hit. How am I? And for us, it's what's the new shiny thing? And that might be a new business. And so, when I'm working with my clients, for example, who are, maybe working with their 2nd, 3rd, or 4th direct sales company or network marketing company, it's, helping them see, what are the things you learned from the first few that you're like, okay, that didn't work. It wasn't the company that didn't work. It wasn't the whatever. What was it that you can pull from that experience to say, okay, I learned how to do this and I learned not to do that. Both of those things are equally important to look at, because you've got to know what to do and what not to do.
Yeah, definitely. Oh my goodness. So for our listeners, again, if there's anyone thinking, maybe I have ADHD, maybe some of the things that Jennie is saying, like, I feel like I can relate to, where or how will they go to actually find out if they have ADHD? Like, what would the process look like?
I don't know what it looks like in other countries, but I'm going to venture to guess you go talk to your primary care physician. Okay. And they have a thing that they'll walk you through, talk you through. If not your primary care physician, if you already have a therapist or counselor, my guess is they've probably already figured out that's what you are because they know. I mean, they know. And just saying, I'd like to have a conversation about my neurodivergence. And, not every person with neurodivergence is ADHD. Neurodivergence is an umbrella term that covers like 15 to 20 different ways that the brain can operate. And
Right.
it's not unusual for somebody to have multiple types of neurodivergence.
Ah, okay,
So
interesting.
yeah, ADHD is often comorbid with anxiety disorders,
Mm,
bipolar, auditory processing. That's my secondary thing. So I have difficulty understanding people. Not that I can't hear them, I
right.
hear what they say, but I will sometimes ask people, like, what did you say? Like, ask them to repeat themselves. But then by the time they say it again, my brain went, oh, that's what they said.
All right.
you know,
Yeah.
and so that is very common because our brain is moving so fast
Mm,
that it outpaces the thinking part of the brain outpaces what can be heard, and so we don't process it the right way.
right.
But yeah, it encompasses all of those things. So go and talk to your physician, go and talk to your therapist or counselor, figure out what's right for you,
Mm,
find a coach who is familiar with ADHD and neurodivergence. You know, I recently just got a client who came to me because she was with a coach, a business coach, who once she officially got diagnosed and she went to the coach and said, "Hey, I figured out why I've been like struggling with the process and da da da. I have ADHD and I'm getting started on stuff." And the coach literally said, "You're just using that as an excuse."
oh,
Oh,
okay, yes.
yeah.
So,
I was like,
see,
no.
what rings to me there is that you got to make sure you find the right coach for you,
Yeah.
right?
So yeah, I had a visceral reaction like when I read that email from her, because this was before she was a client of mine. She
Yeah.
found me by going to Google and typing in ADHD and direct sales. And Google went, "Oh, hey, there's this chick on Facebook who talks about ADHD and direct sales all the time. You should go follow her."
Right.
And so she followed me for a few weeks before she finally reached out because she's like,
Mm,
okay, this gal gets it, right? And
yeah.
she emailed me and told me that story. And I remember it was like 10:30 at night when I get this email,
Oh,
because we
wow.
also have a different circadian rhythm than neurotypicals. We like to work at night. But I was getting ready to go to bed. My phone dings. Hello, dopamine hit.
Mhm.
Somebody wants me. And read that email and literally started crying right there in my bed because I know that feeling.
Mm,
I know that feeling of you're just using it as an excuse.
yeah. Yeah. That's
Oh,
never gonna it's not even
mm-mm,
gonna sit well at all. But
no.
oh my goodness, Jenny, it was so amazing having you on this show. I've learned so much myself, and I know our listeners are going to be learning a lot as well when listening to this episode. But before we go,
Sure.
there's probably going to be listeners there thinking, oh my God, I need Jenny's help. I think I've got ADHD, or I know I've got ADHD, right? I need to be coached by Jenny because I'm struggling finding the right coach as well. So, how can they connect with you, learn more about you, and figure out how they can actually work with you?
Well, one of the things that I do, because I want to make sure that I am the right coach for people
Mhm.
before they jump in and start coaching with me.
Oh,
So I do a complimentary coaching session because I want them to interview me as much as I'm interviewing them to see if we're a
wow.
good fit.
Mhm.
And so I open up a few spots in my calendar every single week, and people can go book a spot, and but just by going to talkwithjennieb.com. And guys, I spell my name a little bit differently. So it's talk with Jennie, JennieB.com. And that will let you see what spots I have open in my calendar. Go check it out. If you think that maybe, just maybe, I could help you, let's have a conversation. Let's see if that works. I'll show you how I coach for 30 minutes and we'll figure it out.
Fantastic. Oh my guys, I urge you to go and speak to Jenny. If you feel like that Jenny can help you, she is going to be the coach that you need, that you've been looking for. Look, go and have a conversation with her, right? See if you guys can work together. and all the links, everything, her calendar link is all going to be in the show notes. So if you've missed it, you can scroll down. Make sure you connect with Jennie. Thank you so much, Jennie. But before we go, I've got one last question for you.
Sure.
And so as a business owner, right, you've decided to use guest podcasting as a form of a marketing strategy for your business. Now, there's a lot of people out there, you know this already as well, that they're not too sure what they're doing. Is podcasting for them? Does it work? What would you say to entrepreneurs that haven't looked at using podcasting as their marketing strategy in their business?
Oh gosh, I highly recommend it. What podcasting has done for me is it has opened doors that I had been knocking on for years. Okay. And the other thing that it did that I didn't know it was going to do was open doors that I didn't even freaking know existed.
Right.
Because my podcast allows me to reach out to people and say, hey, I would love to interview you on my show. And people go, okay. And I'm talking about people who are potential clients. I'm talking about people who I have looked up to as long distance mentors. Like, I was able to reach out to Jack Canfield and he said yes. Wow. I reached out to Mark Victor. Well, actually, I got connected to Mark Victor Hansen because of my podcast and because I had talked to Jack. Somebody said, well, if you talk to Jack, you got to talk to Mark Victor. So that door, I didn't even consider being open because I was like, I already talked to one. Who am I to try and collect both of the chicken soup for the soul guys? Right. I've had people connect me to the CEOs of major direct sales companies and say, you know, they want to be on shows and you're a direct sales podcaster, so they should be on your show. And I'm like, okay. And so I've had the opportunity to have the CEOs of companies that are filled with my ideal clients come on my show and be like, guys, you should be coaching with this lady. Like, it's, I never in a million years would have had that without the podcast. Why would Chris Ciccinelli, the CEO of Pure Romance, talk to me if I didn't have a podcast? Because I'm one of 100, 500 coaches out there who are working with direct sales people. Why me? Well, because I have a podcast.
There you go. So it helps build your brand, your authority. And in fact, it helps you reach people you never would expect to want to connect with you, speak with you, or even be on your podcast, right? So it's a huge networking experience for sure. And you get to reach people on a global level. It's just amazing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I have literally talked to people all over the world. I have had the experience now. I'm now an official international coach, and meaning I've got clients who are not just outside of the US, but outside of North America now.
Oh, wow.
and so that for me is like, oh my gosh, you know? So podcasting has just been, I can't imagine my business without it, honestly. It provides, it fills me up, not only on the client side, but it keeps me going, right? Because I love talking to people. So guesting, having a podcast with guests makes perfect sense because I get to talk to people. And now there's 160 interviews that I have out there.
Right.
Of people who know who I am and what I do.
Yes. Yes. And you can always go back and, refer people to different episodes. This person's been on my episode on, and all of that good stuff, and really share that with your audience. It's an absolute wonderful thing to do for your business. And if people aren't doing it, you're missing out, guys. You're really, really missing out, right? Mm-hmm. So thank you, Coach Jennie, right, for sharing that with us. It's been an awesome, awesome time talking with you and learning so much from you. I've had such an amazing time, and I know our listeners are going to be like jaw dropped, right? Because of the golden nuggets you gave. So thank you for coming on the show. It was amazing to have you here.
Oh, thank you for having me. And as you mentioned, yes, the benefit of podcasting is now the listener who just is like, oh my gosh, this is so good. you can go back and listen again and again and again to grab all the new nuggets that are going to pop out at you. Because when your mind blown was from nugget number 1, you missed nugget number 2, you got nugget 3, but then your mind was blown, so you missed nugget 4. So go back and listen so you can get nuggets 2 and 4.
Absolutely. I totally agree. Oh my goodness. Thanks again, Jennie. You are epic. Oh my goodness.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Make Your Mark podcast at www.makeyourmarkpodcast.com. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you get this and every other episode that comes out. We have lots of great stuff coming, so make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss it. And thank you in advance for all the reviews and comments. I appreciate it so much, and I look forward to serving you in next week's episode.